Yeah, so when I was 18, I just entered to get my undergraduate degree, and I started to feel nervous a lot. But for a long period of time, I didn't really identify it as anxiety or panic attacks or anything like that. It was just kind of generalized. I was just constantly nervous. And then I think a year went by and I had my first panic attack, and I was in a movie theater, and it just kind of feels like the walls are closing in and you can't breathe, and you don't really know what's going on. And so that was my first experience with a panic attack. And then I realized that I have anxiety and panic attacks. And the next 3 years, I kind of spent my time researching it, reading about it, reaching out to doctors, therapists, and figuring out how I could make it manageable. And so it was kind of like a journey for me for a couple of years to figure out what worked for me, what didn't work, what were my boundaries, what were some behaviors that were not serving me or easing my anxiety. And so I kind of created a toolkit that worked best for me, and that's about it. Yeah. So for me, it was a very trial and error process, figuring out what worked, what didn't work, what exacerbated it, what made it worse. So the first thing I kind of did was reach out to family and friends. I have a couple of aunts that have been diagnosed with panic disorder, so I reached out to them. Friends that I knew that had dealt with similar experiences. I also reached out to them and found out, how do you deal with it? And from there, I kind of, used them as resources to help me. I also am doing a PhD in psychology, so I have tons of textbooks, kind of, read all the academic literature on the topic. And so that was kind of my starting point. From there, I went to my family doctor, and I was very, very adamant on using kind of a natural approach at first. And then that is all I ended up using. But my family doctor was really supportive in that, and kind of put me in touch with group counseling, peer support groups with people that were dealing with anxiety. She really emphasized meditation and all the research that's being done on meditation, and how it's really good for easing stress and anxiety. So I started to learn how to meditate. I also read a number of books on the topic, which was really helpful as well. I had a weekly yoga practice, and that was really helpful too. But the things, when I was doing all these things, just because of my science background, I did a lot of research on, how is this actually helping me? Because it was helping me, and I was really surprised about that. And I was like, how are things like meditation helping me, and yoga, and things that I really thought would never work. I started taking supplements like fish oil, pills. Those helped a lot too. Using relaxing sprays, kind of taking that herbal naturopath route as well. And then I finally decided that I was at the point where I was ready for therapy. And so I found a therapist that I have a really good relationship with, and we built a rapport after speaking for a year, and she knows all about my life and my experiences, and she's probably one of the most supportive kind of coping strategies I have. And that was something that I got in touch with through the school. But other than that, and exercise. So exercise is probably the second most therapeutic thing that I do. And I make it a point every day to do something that's going to benefit me and my body. And that is, like I said, extremely helpful. And I notice differences in my body when I don't exercise, especially mentally. And it really just makes life stressors more manageable. And I think that's pretty much it. So for me, when I first started dealing with my mental health issues and my anxiety, I felt a lot of shame and about what I was dealing with, because at first I was like, I'm going to be a psychologist, and even though I don't do clinical work and I'm more on the experimental side, I was like, how am I supposed to help people when I'm dealing with my own mental health issues, and I'm having difficulty managing on an everyday basis, and that I felt a lot of shame and guilt about that. But talking to other people that were in my program, I realized there's so many people that deal with mental health issues, and even if they don't identify it as mental health issues, everyone deals with so much stress and pain and hurt and sadness and really difficult emotions, and so understanding that and relating to people and feeling like kind of getting rid of that stigma towards mental health issues is so important to changing the conversation, and to changing the way people view people who have mental health issues. For me, one of the big things that I try and advocate for is, especially if you're a university student, you enter university, between the ages of 18 to 22. That's the prime age where if you're going to have a mental health issue, that's the onset of it. And that's, usually you move away from university, you're going through a major life transition, you're going from kind of youth to an emerging adult. And so during that period, it's probably the worst time for you to start having mental health issues. And I don't think universities promote and offer enough services and supports for those students, or even just regular students that want to talk to someone. I bet you if you take a survey in universities, there's not that many people that even know who to speak to, how to get help, what services and supports are out there, how can you access them, and things like that. So I think universities really need to step it up and do a better job at advocating and creating awareness to help students access these services. And I think that, having stigma and shame that goes along with that, I think it really pushes people to not reach out and get help. There's been so many people that have texted me privately, come up to me and been like, "Hey, I'm struggling. What can I do?" People don't even know where to go. And that's basic information that we should all have access to, and we don't, and that's pretty scary. So I guess the way it's changed my perspective is to make sure that I openly speak about my mental health issues, and I help anyone that needs it, because I don't think anyone should have to go through difficult stuff alone. So.